Hey everybody, I'm Dane Sanders, and I want to welcome you to Fast Track Coaching Ask Dane for another episode. This is episode number 79, which isn't quite right if you add up all the other guests that we've had on at special events like WPPI or Imaging USA or stuff we did done in New York, where I think we're approaching 100, but we'll just stick with 79 as the official number. And today's guest is a special one. For those of you who are new to Ask Dane, the way this works is I get to hang out with really creative people and ask some good questions, I hope, and we all get to benefit from the conversation. And it's a short conversation, it's only like 30 minutes, but the point of it is meant to be basically me, our guest, and you joining in. So if you find yourself watching, kind of like a spectator, I got to tell you right now up front, you're not going to have near as good a time compared to if you jump into the game directly, and there's a couple ways to do that. If you're on the vocal interface, in the lower right hand corner you should see a little light bulb, and if you hover over it, it'll say questions. If you want to click on that questions, you can submit questions either by text or by live video, and if it's live video, some, if you dare, can actually set up your camera and jump on and join in the conversation, which is a lot of fun. But as you have questions, be sure to just put them in. We'll be able to approve them, put them up online for everyone to see them, and look forward to that. But again, 30 minutes, we don't have a ton of time. Want to make sure that we get as much value out of this as possible. So if you could be submitting those questions around felt need questions to help move your creativity, your business, however you want, that'd be great. But without further ado, I want to introduce our guest. John Michael Cooper has been, and he hates when I talk like this, by the way, but he's been a hero in our industry for a long time, but an unlikely one. He's more like, if there are superheroes, he's more like a Watchmen superhero. He's an alternative superhero. And he's the kind of guy who, if you're around the industry for very long, you find out pretty quickly that there are, there's a lot of people who are creative, but there's a certain breed that in the words of my buddy Becker, make me want to just throw a camera against the wall and quit the business. And this is one of those guys, but despite it, he's a great guy, and he inspires more than he discourages. And the way he inspires is he's constantly willing to reinvent, to blow up what he just did. He's famous for a lot of things. He's the guy who invented Trust the Dress. He's the guy that lit a bride on fire. He drowned a bride once, but she lived. He does, that's just a little bit. That's just the surfacey stuff. And there's bigger stuff that we're going to find out a little bit about today, and hopefully you'll enjoy the conversation around creativity. And by the way, if you're watching this and you're like, gosh, a friend of mine could really benefit from this, reach out to them, send them an email, send them over to Ask Dane right now so they can join in the conversation too. It's one thing to get on the replay, but if you're on the replay, you're definitely a spectator, and we'd much rather you get involved in the conversation. It'll be richer for everybody. So without further ado, welcome John Michael Cooper to the show. Glad you're here, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, John, your moniker online, and a lot of your friends know this already, especially if you're connected to the DWF forum or any of the other places that you frequent. People know you as Alt F, and this is G-rated, but if you could articulate a little bit why Alt F and what that means for people, I think that could be a good way to start the conversation.
Pretty much the short story is I came up with the name Alt F, Alt F Photography. I was at an angry point in my life, which is actually very formative, and I had to come up with a business name, so I decided to go with Alt F, Alt standing for alternative, just because I never like to consider myself the first choice. By definition, alternative is the second choice, so not the first choice or even the proper choice. It's just a different choice. F is an expletive. I can spell it out for you. It starts with an F, but I'll be nice, which will be unusual for me. I was mad at the time, but when I hear the name Alt F, I know I have a lot to live up for. I know it's sort of a guide in my business and my philosophy and everything. I try to do everything different and everything. I don't care if it's the way everyone else is supposed to do it or the first choice. I always take a separate path usually.
Now, you're also one of the nicest guys I've ever met in this industry. So despite your kind of biker look and the piercings and the long goatee, and everyone knows this. When they meet you in person, you're a nice guy. But you mentioned a minute ago that there was a season in your life in particular that was you were under the bus a little bit and you're frustrated, and you mentioned a second ago that those were formative for you. Since today's topic is about creativity and how to find more creativity, say a little bit more about that, because I know this for a fact. There are people who are listening who are very frustrated with where they're at, and sometimes when I have the opportunity to get in conversations with them, I encourage them to increase their dissatisfaction, not try to just kind of get comfortable again. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the relationship between creativity and frustration.
Well, it's I don't know about the nice guy part, but frustration is usually a key part of pretty much anything. If you're tired of what you're doing, unless it's working, unless it's going the right way.
Did you just go to the bathroom just now?
No.
Okay, people are asking, just so you know.
It's like there comes a point. There's always these definitive points, which is the light switch, and sometimes it's your back is against the wall and you're forced to perform, or someone says no, you can't do that and you can't do that, and then you either comply or you say screw that, I'm going to do it anyway. I had another word about to come out of my mouth, but I stopped myself. And that's what you need to do, is like you need to find that one thing that pushes your button. And I was just lucky enough to have someone piss me off just enough where they pushed the right button, and I just started doing what I wanted to do and moved on from there. So you have to. Thank you. You have to. Allow those things and take the good with the bad, and sort of see what might be a bad thing happening, or someone holding you down, and just kind of spin it into a different opportunity. I could have just rolled over and played dead after my third time failing, but either I was too stupid to stop, or I finally said, screw it, I'm going to do it, and I just, threw it at the fan and see what stuck, or the wall. That's a better idea.
Yeah, well, it's funny. The fan seems more like a fit, because my experience of you is that's what you do. You surprise people. Like people think they're going to go to a wall and they hit a fan. They think they're going to go in one direction and you take them in another. And for those of you guys who are unfamiliar, John's studio is out in Las Vegas, and he does more than just wedding stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on in different directions. But John, I'm curious, if you were just starting out, knowing what you know now, and you were committed to being creative, like that being the core value, because it seems like that's really clear that that's a really important value for you, how would you spend your time at the initial stages of your business that you're building? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I would pretty much, like, if I could go back and do it again, it's like I have hindsight now, so I know that I can make it. When you're first starting, you always like, yeah, I can make it. I'm gonna be this big photographer. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make $1 million in like my first year. But you truly don't believe that. You think you believe it, and you think you know it. It's just like a kid growing up. Like I have teenagers. They think they know it. They think they know it. And just like I did when I was that age, I thought I know it. It's not until you get a little bit older, a little wiser, like, oh, crap, I didn't know it. I had to go through that thing. And did I get off track? I do that.
No, you're good.
Reiterate the question a little bit again.
For sure. No, for sure. I think that there's a sense in which there's so much talk about, it's a tough economy, and people are very pragmatic around business. They're way more than they were a few years ago. I think that there's a lot of folks who had a passion to be creative in a certain direction, but then all of a sudden they figured out they had to make a buck, so they weren't necessarily creative. They tended to look around the industry and go, what's working for other people? And they fell into that kind of mold. And my impression of you is that you're pragmatic, you know how to make money, you're a business guy, but at the same time, you're very clear that if you're not tapping into your creativity, you're not going to be in the industry for very long. So I guess my question is, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out to not lose their soul for creativity? What should they be doing to stay in tune with that? Does that make more sense?
Yeah, I think the point I was trying to get to earlier is like, stop listening to how everyone and the industry is going, or the marketplace is going, or the economy. That's all state of mind. It's like the economy's bad for houses and banks and everyone else. It's not so bad to people that know how to do it and know how to get things done. And are willing to get out there and do it. It's like we use these big excuses to to kind of slow down and take a pause in our step. When it's like when the tough get going, when it's you know what I mean. It's like that's when it's harder. That's when you got to work harder, and stop you can't do it now. These aren't the times to do this. I got to slow down doing this. That's the time when you got to throw everything at the wall and you just and kind of forget about what everyone else. I think my biggest thing is I just wasn't afraid to fail. I got to the point where I'm failed going, and I didn't care. I've already failed a couple times, so I knew what that tasted like, and I was good with that. And I think that's what you got to do is you got to take everything and just turn it around. There's always a spin on something. You always got to kind of do something just a little bit different. And there's back there.
Hey! Put her back on. Put her back on.
Hi, Dane.
Hi,
John,
hi, friend.
Pants.
I got pants.
Yeah.
Well, it's your call. It's your call. So
I thought, say, hey, it's a waist up show, and
that's right.
Video conferencing kind of makes you feel dirty anyway. So.
Well, we're charging by the minute, right, for this one? Isn't that how it's working?
Do I get a piece of that?
You sure do. No problem. Depends how good the action is. You'll be fine though. So here's the question. So when you say that you failed in the past, are you open to sharing a little bit for some specifics? Because again, for a lot of folks who are listening, it's just helpful to know that they're not alone. They're not crazy. That failure is kind of part of the game. And I'm wondering if you could share a little bit of specifically where you failed in your business and how you responded in a more constructive way because of it.
I think the biggest part of when I failed is like I had in my mind what I was going to do, what I needed to do to make all this money and be successful, but I didn't have the tenacity to follow through with each job. I started becoming successful when I realized that you can't do everything, and you got to find a lot of people that kind of back you up, like that one back there. She has my back all the time.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's a thing about getting just a little wiser after a couple falls. I just had quite a few hard falls, so I'm all that wiser. But the cool thing with nowadays is you don't have to fall like everyone else does. You can kind of, the curve is so short now. The learning curve is so short, and you can jump up past. You have people like you and bypassing all that stuff, so they don't have to go through that. They don't have to go through the trenches. I know a lot of the old timers like, oh, you got to put some dues, and I did my dues. It's like, if you can get past those dues and go get past those dues, and then just hopefully you can even use that to accelerate past all of us. That's a good take,
That's a good point. I mean, it seems like a lot of the conversation I get in, and even conversation with myself, has to do with, am I willing to enthusiastically get after what I'm after? Because you're right, there's tools that expedite the process. Our equipment will go a lot further. And if anything, at least for me, if I can remove my own anxiety, I find that I can get more creative. I can come up with more stuff. I think what's incredible to me is that you are the kind of guy that you can't even do an interview uncreatively. Like, what the heck are you doing?
I've been skateboarding. I've been skateboarding a lot, so I got this longboard. So the studio's pretty big, and so
show it off a little bit.
To get across from one side of the studio to the other, got this giant high bay. I use a skateboard to slide across it. Because I always get back to the other side of the studio and it's like, oh crap, I forgot to turn the lights off, or I forgot to turn the smoke cooler off, or I forgot to turn something off. So
I think you leave those things off on purpose so you can go back on your skateboard. That's what I think.
Don't tell Lisa
that. Okay, so let's jump into a couple questions because folks are asking. Here's a question. You mentioned a minute ago that there are ways now that weren't available before to kind of jump the curve, to kind of get in front a little faster than it used to be. And one question that came up is Alina Hernandez, who I think you know. She asked the question, John, do you farm out business to help run your business, like accounting and that sort of thing? Or like, what do you keep and what do you let go
of? Well, Delisa handles all the business, all the emails. I'm horrible at emailing someone. If you wanted to email me, I would get it, and I would have good intentions of, oh, this is a really important email. I need to email you back, but that's a complex question. It's going to take me some time to think, and then I kind of procrastinate it, and then a day later, it doesn't come out. It's like, oh, now it's 2 days later, and then it's a week later, and then someone emails me back. It's like, oh, that must have got my spam folder or something. So I end up procrastinating where I have to lie about it, and it's like I tell people, crap, I just can't email back. I have good intentions too, so just call me. But Delisa takes care of all the emails for me usually. So emails that come to me get promptly ignored, not because I like to ignore them, but just because I procrastinate. So that was the first thing. So she took over all the client contacts, all the because I wouldn't call people back. People wanted to call me, give me money. It's like, okay, I'll call them after this movie's over or something. And not the proper way to do business. I wanted to shoot. I didn't want to do the business. So she takes care of all that. She's the face of the company as far as clients go. I'm the face of the company as far as photography goes. But when a lot of people, by the time they get to me, by the time they're sitting down with me, they're already in love with Delisa. So, which is beneficial because they end up adding her. Because she becomes fast friends with our clients, and we have really some great clients. So that goes to her. That took a load off me. That was a big reason why we started becoming more successful. If maybe one of the main reasons. We have an accountant that takes care of all that other stuff. I was even making my own albums. I like to stick my fingers and stuff. I just stopped making my own albums, which some people like a little.
You stopped doing it?
I stopped doing it.
No kidding.
Very, 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 very few. We switched to Fineo. They make great albums. They're sort of lined up in our philosophy, so they're our album company now. I know you have Shoot Cubes, Sponsor Stuff. Shoot Cubes, taking care of is now takes care of all the paperwork that we used to store and scan and all that stuff before. So that's a big thing, just the tedious things, because every time you do something small and tedious, that's time that you're not doing something creative. And
that's right.
What people don't realize is you're only making money off your creative efforts, unless you like to do pure sales, and then you can just go sell cars and make more money than this business. So
right.
I'm going to go into the
let's talk about that
studio.
Okay, I'm sure you'll just keep going. We're just going to keep that rolling. So, did you fall?
They closed the doors on me.
John, you're the only guy, I have to admit this, you're the only guy when I interview you that I sweat the whole time because I never know what's coming next. It's constantly you're moving to the next thing. So let's take up more questions. Our friend Meredith Williams asked.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Meredith, it's all right. Meredith asked the question, what do you do outside of photography to fuel your creativity?
I go see a lot of movies. I read a lot of books. Well, books with pictures in it. My wife's laughing in the background. I skateboard around here just because that's my only exercise right now. But as far as keep my creativity going is like, I get a lot of inspiration from, you know what, going to the bookstore, you know, you just, all of a sudden your eyes open up. You just have to open up your eyes and you're like, you can't walk out of a bookstore and have like 10 ideas running through your head. I can't watch a movie without saying, oh, that would be a great bridal session, or that would be a great, studio session if I can just like kind of recreate that feel there. Anyway, I mean, you just like, I want to play a video roulette and just play a video and just like pause it and force myself to create that frame. Hopefully I'll pick a good movie. But
Dane, really, he just
okay, so here,
around. That's all he does.
I totally agree. In fact, listen, I was just thinking that. I was in the chat room a second ago, and I was thinking that's what's so goofy. Where everyone in the comments in the chat room, if you check it out right now, all they're saying is John is toast without his wife. That's all they keep saying over and over and over again. And on some level, and when also like people who know you, they'll say, well, first off, you two are a creative team. You're not just. It's not just the one. It's not just the guy. And we all know that you hold him together. But there is a degree to which, by freeing John up, wouldn't you agree that by freeing him to just be himself, to be enthusiastic and crazy and creative, that's probably where his best stuff comes out. Would you agree with that or no?
Can you hear?
I can't hear.
Oh, she can't hear you. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. Sorry.
I think.
I can't hear you, but I love looking at your face, Dane.
Oh.
Yeah,
Give her an earbud. Can you give her an earbud for a second? Because I want to ask her this question. First off, I should have had you both on the show. Okay, great. I should have had you both on, not just John. But what's a lot of folks in the chat room are talking about is how, especially if they know you guys at all, how you kind of hold the fort together, and you're both creative, but creative in different directions. But it seems like John's best work shows up when you free him up to be that kind of wandering fool who's skateboarding and chopping his fingers off and taking people out to the middle of the desert and lighting them on fire. Like, would you agree that that's on some level as a partnership, that's kind of part of your job, is to free him up to do what he does best, and his job is to free you up to do what you do best?
Absolutely. That took me the first couple of years of marriage to figure out as a wife. But, I started realizing that the more fun he had and the more free he was to not have to deal with all the business stuff, the better work he was doing. And I can't argue with that. I mean, that's fantastic. And he stays out of my way, doesn't try to get his fingers in the business, because then things just get all messed up. So, yeah, I think every artist needs that, is to be free to, hey, you guys, stop that.
I'm laughing because I think you're talking to all three of them. Okay, so talk about your dogs for a second, because everyone wants to know. What breed of dog is that?
Okay, this one in
what
front
do you got?
Lisa. He's a dachshund. He's a dachshund. He's a really fat dachshund. Say hi, Lisa.
I'm not fat. TV.
And then a Pomeranian over here. He's shaved down for the summer, but he's our big Pomeranian.
Is it pretty hot this summer?
Tourette's.
John was saying it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, we're on our 6th day of temperatures over 110, so it's pretty warm.
I thought you were going to say 3 digits, and then I realized that for you guys is 100, but 110.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
111 today, and then it's supposed to go down to like 106, so we're excited about that.
Wow. Well, thanks for coming on, my friend. I appreciate you joining. It's great. I don't want you to break your back hanging over the edge there, but it's awesome. It's awesome. In fact, next time we'll have you on, and then John can be the guest. How does that sound?
He can just skateboard in the background, because that's what he does.
That would be great. Bye, friend.
See you later. Bye.
Okay. So John, I have some more questions for you, real quick.
Okay.
There's a lot of lighting questions going on in in the because I know you're famous for using crazy deer lights and now I saw recently. It's funny. I wish I had my camera to show you. I have I bought one of those big. I was at a yard sale. Let's see if you can even see it. I don't know if you can see it or not. But I was at a yard sale. You see it? Kind of through there?
I think so. Yeah.
It's all blown out. But you have like orange or kind of purpley versions of it. But here's the funny thing is, I thought I was just buying like a really cool antique, UCLA Film School big lighting thingamajigger. And then I go to your website and you have like an army of them. How the heck do you use that stuff?
You know what? Those lights, if you look at through a lot of the black and white stuff I'm doing in my studio, actually a lot of the studio work I'm doing just those because it has a very Hollywood-esque look to them, and that's been my favorite since I was learning photography. Is the George Farrell, C.S. Bull, and those guys from the 40s. So, but these are
They're there. And
yeah, what I do is, if you I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, we can.
I name them. Yeah, this one's Lafayette. He has a 750 watt bulb in here. This one is Bill. He has a 1,000 watt bulb in there, and I have another one over here called Suki. So. Of
course you do. That's great.
And that's because they all look the same, so that's how I name them, so I know which one's more powerful than the other. We watch we watch True Blood, so I'm into that right now. So I'll change your names eventually, but.
That's great. Now, when you come across cool lighting equipment like that, just kind of randomly, do you collect that stuff for a particular look, or is it more like you grab it and then play with it and come up with your own stuff?
No, I grab it because I said, oh, I know I can use this, and it's cheap. So, and this is here's some Hollywood Hollywood style lighting that's done similar. Oops. If I can, hold on, let me turn off my light.
No worries, your glam light. By the way, how big is your studio?
The shooting room that is just in is 3,000 square feet. Our living area upstairs is like 12 to 1,400 square feet. Total square feet is like 5,000.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot. So that's a lot of space.
It is literally big enough to pull a full semi and close the door. It's 25 feet high to the ceilings.
Wow.
It's a cyc wall that I built by hand. It is 17 feet at the short by 25 feet by 11 feet tall.
Do you ever skateboard the seamless?
But as far as no, that's a no-no. Because I built it. Don't think it'll support it. I'll have to fix it. But as far as lights go, I like Hollywood. If you find these old Hollywood lights, they do exactly the same thing as the little video lights everyone uses when they're shooting weddings. Except they're hotter and bigger. So I use the same approach, So the same lighting I'm getting in here in the studio, I can go on location at a smaller scale, do that same light with the video lights on the wedding. So it kind of matches what I'm doing. But,
well, it's funny though.
I like to see what I. I like to see what I get,
Yeah, well, what I imagine in my head is those lights would be too powerful, like they just would be overwhelming. You'd have to dial them down too much, but they're doable.
Oh no, I mean 1,000 watt bulb is not actually. It's bright when you're staring at it, but it's not bright to ISO 100.
Right.
It's not bright at all.
That's cool.
Yeah, and those things aren't very bright. You take them outside, the sun will kill them. They're just not bright enough for outside. You need that's all. Hollywood lights have 12, 10, 12, 15, 20K lights, 1,000 in watts to shoot a movie outside in daylight.
Wow. It's funny. I'm looking in the chat room right now, and people are all saying they want to move into your house. They love that you're kind of showing off all this stuff. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the lighting here. Curtis Baker asked this question. I'll put it up here on the screen. He says, does John shoot dark too, lighten the subject's faces, or does he bring down the exposure in post? Because I mean, your images are so dramatic, and it does seem like you have a certain style and look. I guess the two questions I have is, first one, he has his question here, but the second question I have as a follow-up is, as you are constantly kind of evolving your style, where are you at right now, and where do you kind of see your style going in the coming years?
Well, as far as the studio, I've been wanting to be in studio for a long time. That's why I've been doing a lot of Hollywood type lighting. I actually just did a pinup for the first, well, not the first time, but in a while I did a pinup in the studio the other day. But trying to replicate a very older style. As far as making things dark, I know what I can do with lighting, and I know how to kind of finesse it and refine it in post. So there's a combination of the two. Sometimes I'll shoot for post work, and sometimes I'll adjust my post work for, is like, okay, my light's this way. I know what I can do in post, so I know they go together. You know, we're in an era where almost everything is overcooked, and you know, I'm one of those, I cook my stuff, you know, past the well stage. You know, we rarely see images on photographer's site that are just medium rare or rare. You know, we just like, we hit it so hard in Lightroom, then we reopen it up and hit it again in Photoshop. You know, but the thing is knowing how they both fit. Your shooting and your lighting has to be able to fit the particular technique that you're going to do in post. So you just can't shoot and then figure out what you can do later. You have to shoot knowing what you can do later, and that way they'll kind of fit together and look, and that way you can like push a style. So with my dark lighting technique that I'm doing, I like to force. I use the lighting in shadows, kind of. The shadow becomes an element of the background. If you look at my work, I use a lot of shadows. I keep a lot of shadows in there. I was taught getting into photography, put your flash over your camera, it has to be over this far, drive the shadows, you won't see the shadows, no shadows, right. No shadows, no shadows, you know, screw that. You know, I was like, oh, I like the shadow though, you know, and so now I try to get shadows, like how can I get a shadow in there? And then after a while, I was like, oh, how can I screw with other people and like make the shadow look backwards, you know? And he was like, okay, that's shadow's going the wrong direction. And with when you're creating shadows and you're creating shapes with light and dark, I usually do that so I force the eye of the viewer to look what I want to see first. Most people like use composition to make a pleasing image. I use composition, lighting, and even dodging, burning in post to say, hey, you need to look at this part first, this part second, and that little piece in the background, that's my hidden message. I want you to see that last before you turn the page, in that order. And so you make this triangle, or have these points. You like, I want them to find this 2 weeks later, or I want them to see this right now. And it really depends on how you light. Well, everyone knows I've hide stuff in my stuff, so, but I don't tell them where.
Well, it seems like that's what's so amazing to me about you, John, is that you're so ambitious. Like you're not satisfied with like a well-lit shot. You're trying to put layers of meanings, and you have inspiration from the past and the current and the future. And there's even a question in here about like Dexter. My wife and I just started watching Dexter. We're late to the Dexter party, and we dig it. But let me see. Here's the question. Alina again asked the question. Here it is. Can you discuss the setup and execution of your Dexter-inspired shoot with your rockstar clients? And whether you talk about the specifics of that or not, I'm less concerned. What I'm more interested in is bigger picture. If I'm listening and I'm trying to improve my creativity, it just sounds like the overall message you're giving is never be satisfied. Like, do one thing and then don't sit back and stare at it. Like, bust it up. Do something new with it. Break it open. Is that kind of your MO, or is it something else and I'm just misreading entirely?
No, that's close. You know, I store a lot of ideas in my head, and I challenge myself, like, and they're just like you know, if you're preparing to go on a shoot, but you don't know you're shooting, it's like going with an empty gun to defend yourself, or if you go like me, I'm just loading up a few cylinders just in case I need to. Maybe the first cylinder is empty, but if I need to, I can. I have a few cylinders that I can throw something at the wall, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, I've always wanted to do this. I always want to do this, and so I had these ideas, and I have a sketchbook and everything. It's like, oh, I wish you know what? If I ever have this sailboat accidentally in that's in my studio, or if I ever actually have a sailboat in my studio, I'm gonna do this kind of shoot, you know, and then but you never know when someone says, hey, you know what, I have a sailboat. Too bad I can't use that in my photos because we have no water around here. It's like, dude, bring it to my studio. So you have to be able to take advantage of that, and keep your eyes open and your mind open. And when someone, because all the times we'll have clients that will come in, you know, I like Dexter. Blaze and I were late to the game also. We came in at the end of the first season.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay, let's watch this. Yeah, liked it. And then we caught up on Netflix, and now we're waiting for the next season. But as far as the shot I did for Corey Taylor and Stephanie Taylor, which is the lead singer of Slipknot, which are a really cool couple, is I had a whole engagement session scripted and storyboarded out. I had the whole, so I actually had a whole album designed for their engagement book already, and that wasn't included. And so when I was going through the shots that I was trying to execute and do, we were like sitting there, and we were like talking about Dexter because we're like waiting for me to rechange my lighting and everything. And Stephanie says, "Hey, you know, too bad we can't do the kill room from Dexter." And I'm thinking, we can do the kill from Dexter. And so we sent our assistant out. It's like, go and buy me as much saran wrap as you can.
Wow.
30 minutes later, we did that shot. So it wasn't my idea, but I've always wanted to do it. And when the opportunity presented itself, I said, well.
So let me run through the drill here. So basically what you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, is number one, always be thinking, always be feeding the beast. What could I be doing? What have I not done? What else could I do? And store that up someplace. For you, it's in your head. For other people, it could be other places. Number two, be ready. So like when those moments come, you can pull it out and execute, even if you don't necessarily know exactly how you're going to do it. But number three, what I'm also hearing you say is like be prepared. Like it sounds like you do a lot of work on spec, just to help people get clear. And by the way, if you guys are getting seasick, we can't help it. John's just going to do it whether I ask him to or not. So that's just the way it's going to be. But also have the sense of getting ready, like doing your homework. You're not a lazy guy. You work your tail off to put yourself in a position so that you can execute on these visions. So collect, prepare, and then work your tail off. Seems like a bit of your recipe. Now, is that true? First of all.
Yeah. You know, I'd like to add that, and also be open and never close-minded, because, and when someone else says something, know that that is a good idea. And that might pull another idea, and once you start doing their idea, that's going to give you a little segue to something else, or even adjustment to that. And so, you know, he's like, you have all these loaded cylinders,
right?
But you got to keep one open,
right? So keeping space,
something else
right.
better comes along. You know, everyone thinks I'm really super creative, but yeah, but I'm just really open. I know how to take advantage of something. You know, and I know how to copy a great artist from 100 years ago because I know his stuff works.
That's great. What about contemporary stuff? We're already over time, but contemporary players, like I was just this morning watching Zack Arias' One Light Workshop again, and I think of guys like Chase Jarvis, and there's a new book that came out today. My buddy David Duchemin just came out with this cool book on how to infuse like Photoshop and Lightroom with vision, not just like technique. And there's all these contemporary guys who are doing, and women, doing some really amazing stuff. Do you look to any of those folks as kind of colleagues, inspiration, or do you kind of tend to focus exclusively on kind of what you want to focus on? Do you even know who these people are?
You know what? I know exactly those people. Yeah. I think I've gotten drunk with some of those before. So, you know, there's as far that's going to bring me some flashbacks. Anyway,
no, you're talking about contemporary.
Yeah,
right.
I just lost my train of thought. As far as that, yeah, you know, I am plugged into what's happening contemporarily, and I think that's really important. You have to know your market, but what people don't realize is that if you know your market, you know what's happening and what the industry is doing. You know which direction it's going. Like maybe the only reason why I did a pinup the other day is because that's hot right now. I'm just going to try to do just a little different, hopefully. But what you also got to do is, like, if you know what's out there, you can also know what to do that's going to make yourself different. It's like if you know everyone's selling apples, apple, then you know it's time to have a market for an orange. And so you can use the industry as a guide to what to do and what not to do. It's like, if I want to be an apple, I better be a damn good apple. Otherwise, I can probably sell a few bad oranges.
Hey, we only have a couple of minutes time for last questions. One is my friend Stephanie LeBlanc up in Canada. She is a great shooter. She asked the question, I'm shooting full-time for clients and short on time for personal projects. Do you have any advice for someone in her shoes?
Absolutely. I push my personal projects into clients' projects. Like if I wanted to do a shot of Ophelia, I'm a wedding photographer. I'm gonna make it a bridal session, which that's the lady in the water. So basically, if I've always wanted to do this grand fashion shoot, why don't I do it with a client that I have? I like to shoot dashboards. I like dashboards of old classic cars. I'm eventually slowly collecting a large set of images, just dashboards, classic cars. And guess what? I tell that to my clients. I was like, oh, we have an old car. We can use that as a pro. Right. Yeah. And guess what? I shoot the dashboard. And I get to shoot the car because I like old cars. So if you can't get your personal projects because you're too busy working, either reevaluate how you do business, have someone come in, or find a way to push your personal projects into your work. So, and if you love to do what you
that's great.
If you love that.
Thanks for that question, by the way, Stephanie. And then I guess last question. Well, I have one more after this one, but Meredith Williams asked the question. Here it is. Here, how much of what you shoot do you never end up showing anyone? It's a good question.
How much of what I shoot do I never end? I shoot a lot of crap. I get excited and I forget to meter. I'm on manual when I should be on aperture, and then I change it around. And sometimes I was like, oh, I got this really cool idea. I got this cool pose. Why don't you sit over here, sit over there, and it's like. And once they sit there, like,
that's funny.
Just so they don't feel bad, and then move on to another pose. But you see, the thing with the cool thing about is like a lot of the really really good photographers. Of course, they get a lot of good shots, but they're also a lot of them are even just good editors. They know what not to show and what to show, and I think sometimes we just show too much. It's like. It's like a magazine. They're not gonna publish all 1,000 images they got on a photo shoot. They're gonna publish 2 pictures from a photo shoot. They have even a harder time than we're doing, where we're trying to cut it down to 100 pictures for an album out of 2,000. They're cutting down that to 1 or 2 pictures. So there's a lot that we don't show. And if I have this really out there idea and the client doesn't survive, I'm not gonna kind of post that. It's like, okay, let's be quiet about this, and we're gonna move on to do something that maybe looks cool and we won't get in trouble with. So Yeah, not everything we do is shown. We make mistakes. I'm notorious for bad taste calls. Like the Bride on Fire. I can tell you that does not translate to child photography.
Yeah, I remember when you debuted the video for that on one of the Ask Dane's Simple Photo Minute things, and I was so freaked out about it that I remember I put all those qualifiers like, don't do this at home. Our lawyers are going to be upset about this. Blah blah blah. And but you're right. There's consequences to our creativity. And it seems, too, that there's something to be said for creating a little bit of mystery, like to not show everything. Like I think you mentioned pinups earlier. It seems like one of the reasons why pinups as a style works so well for so many people or for so many years is because it leaves something to be shown. There's still a mystery of what isn't being there. And I don't know. It seems like in addition to you being committed in your creativity, by the way, people like your sexy pose. People are commenting. As soon as I said pinup, you started. That's great.
I have more poses.
Just keep it above the waist. Oh well then.
See, I do have pants
on. You just disappointed a lot of people, but that's all right. There's. Okay, that's probably why.
I want to actually bust the myth.
Well, it does seem like the way that you have built out your business, and I get that there's bumps in the road and stuff, but it seems like by creating a little bit of mystery, showing kind of your best of your best, also being real enough to say it's not always the best of the best. The fact that you're in Vegas, your incredible wife, you guys do this in tandem. It just seems like all pistons are firing right now, and I know for me, I'm just kind of one face in the crowd, but man, we need guys like you in our industry to kind of ruffle feathers and do things a little different and come at it from a different angle, whether it be doing the subjects and stuff that you do, or even how you do it. Like someone earlier mentioned Chase Jarvis, and I think he's such an important player in our industry right now because he was willing to drop all the gear and pick up his iPhone and just get after it. And I guess if there was one kind of message I'd want to give to folks watching this right now is, what are you doing today to get after it? What are you willing to kind of reinvent or blow up or try something new or come at it from a different angle that would take your business to a new level? And not just your business, your soul, your creativity. But who cares what I think? What do you think? What advice would you give right now to the folks that are listening who are just like, what you would wish for them, what you wish they would do for our industry, and how they would become their own version of yourself or Chase or someone else that would drive our industry in a new direction. And I guess the same way to ask the same question, a different way to ask the same question would be, what does our industry need, and how can the viewers watching get after that thing?
You know what? I actually think I spoke about a little bit about this. I did last January. I did Mystic workshops, and my whole thing was reinvent. The thing is we need, since we share everything on the internet, on Facebook, on the DWF, Twitter. When we go to the bathroom. There's so much sharing going on. There's just so much sharing going on, it's really easy to become homogenized. But so if you want to stand out, just do things different. This is a time when we've already learned a lot faster than everyone that's before us. So we should take that as just a base. Don't come up to the level everyone else is and saying this is the plateau now. We're still all young. It's like we've gotten this far, and we bypassed all the hard parts. So let's accelerate past that. So what I was like to speak on is just reinventing. It's like you can take a list of everything you do in your business and say, okay, everything. It's like, how do you answer the phone? How do you post process? How do you email someone? How you mop your floors? And just let me do this differently today, or let me find a way to do it differently. So you can reinvent every single aspect of your business. And the thing is you only actually need to do one reinvention really well to stand out. I tell people, you want to be ahead of the curve amongst the photographers, answer the phone. You know, it doesn't even have to be creative, or just like, but you can take your creative. We're supposed to have all this creative skill with making images. That creative skill should be applied to how we consult with clients, how we, like I said, how we solve problems, how we solve a problem with we have a upset client for some reason. We should use that creativity to be able to fix things, and do other things, other than just like make a pretty stupid picture. It's like there's more to being creative than just our visual. Oh, look at this really cool picture that no one else can shoot. That I'm the only one that can shoot. We if we have the gift of creativity, we should be able to apply that to anything else. And
we all are, and I'm just glad you said what you said. I hope somebody Twittered that too, because there's a sense in which it does seem like creativity seems to be limited for a lot of folks, or like single dimensional. And John, again, I say this every time we get a chance to talk, but you just inspire me, man. And I'm glad to be friends, and glad to I hope we can get beers together again soon. You just froze up. I don't know what that means, so I'll just keep talking. Or maybe I froze up. Oh, there you're back. Great. I'm really looking forward to seeing you again. I'm going to be in Vegas actually in a couple weeks. I'll be out there for Skip Summer School. So you want to go hang out? Okay, I can see you now. You froze just for a sec. Cool. When I come out to Skip Summer School, we're going to have to hang out if that's cool with you. Can you hear me?
That's cool with me.
Thanks so much for being on the show today. And for those of you who are watching, if this is valuable to you in any way. Okay. Oh, that's funny. There's probably about a 35-second delay now. 1, 2, 3, 4.
35-second delay.
5.
Wow.
Just a second.
1, 2.
That's funny. All right, so it's all right. We're gonna sign off. It's cool, John. We love you. If this was great for you guys, please be sure to jump on and say thanks to John Michael Cooper. Altf.com is his Twitter name, and we'll put the replay on this as soon as we possibly can. Next week for Ask Dane, I don't have the schedule right in front of me, but I think it's someone really cool. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Not possible. It's not possible. All right. So that's it for now, John. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, my friends, and take care.